My name's Elias. I'm 32, and I've always been the dependable one in the family, the quiet type. Not invisible, exactly, but certainly not front and center. While my brother Ryan lit up rooms with his booming laugh and magnetic charm, I was the guy making sure the light stayed on. You know the type, the one who remembers anniversaries, buys thoughtful gifts, handles emergencies without making a scene. I don't resent it. It's just the role I slid into, or maybe the one that was handed to me when no one else wanted it. Ryan and I were never close. Not in the bitter, shouting match kind of way, just distant. He was the golden boy growing up. Always the center of attention, star quarterback, homecoming king, the whole package. I was the academic one, the quiet achiever. Our parents loved us both, sure, but it was obvious who they admired. And I learned early on that it was easier not to compete. So, I supported him. Clapped the loudest at his games. Helped him cram the night before finals. Let him borrow my car when his was in the shop. That sort of thing. When he got engaged to Haley, I didn't expect to be the best man. I didn't even expect to be in the wedding party. I'd met her a handful of times, enough to know she was sharp, confident, and cared deeply about image. She had a way of scanning a room that made you feel like she was rating everything, the table settings, your shoes, the way you held your glass. I got the sense she tolerated me more than liked me. Still, when Ryan called me last year and said, "Hey, man, I know you're not big on crowds, but I'd love for you to help with the wedding," I smiled and said, "Of course." I figured he meant logistics. I'm good at that. What I didn't realize was that help meant handling the entire catering contract. They were having this swanky, 200-guest wedding at a vineyard 2 hours out of town. Expensive, picturesque. They wanted a plated dinner with 3 options, past hors d'oeuvres during cocktail hour, signature drinks, the whole 9 yards. Ryan explained they were tight on funds but wanted it to be perfect. Could I handle the down payment for now, and they'd reimburse me after the honeymoon? I agreed. Stupidly, maybe. But again, I've always been the reliable one. I've done well in my field, software consulting, and didn't think twice about floating the $8,000 deposit. I even coordinated with the caterers directly, arranged the menu tastings, managed the timelines, and signed the service contract in my name. It wasn't just a financial favor, it was a trust thing, and I was proud to help. The lead up to the wedding was chaotic, as weddings always are. Group chats exploded. Haley had a vision board. Ryan kept accidentally forwarding me tasks like arranging shuttle buses and coordinating with the florist. It became a running joke among my friends that I was the unofficial wedding planner. I brushed it off. After all, it was family. But then things started to shift subtly. At first, the wedding website went live, and I noticed I wasn't listed in the wedding party. Fine, not a big deal. Then came the seating chart, which I saw during a planning dinner. My name was slotted at table 17, right next to the exit, grouped with a couple of Ryan's college friends I'd never met. When I gently asked Haley if there had been a mistake, she gave me this tight-lipped smile and said, "Oh, we just figured you'd prefer something low-key. Didn't want to overwhelm you with too much attention." That stung more than I expected, but I told myself not to take it personally. It was their day. I'd handled the logistics. I didn't need fanfare. I was here to support, not be celebrated. Then came the rehearsal dinner. It was held at this sleek rooftop venue overlooking the skyline, with string lights and live acoustic music. Everyone was dressed to the nines. There was a slideshow playing on a loop, a montage of childhood photos, vacation memories, clips of Ryan proposing at the beach. I sat through 20 solid minutes of curated nostalgia before I realized I wasn't in a single frame. Not one, not even the group family shots. My mom leaned over at one point and said, "Isn't this beautiful? Haley did such a great job with the photos." I forced a smile and nodded, but inside, something started to crack. Then came the speeches. Haley's dad gave a long toast about her resilience, her grace, her leadership. Ryan's best man, his old college roommate, told stories about frat parties and late-night cramming. My name didn't come up once, and when it was Haley's turn to speak, she raised her glass and said, "To everyone who shaped who we are today, the people who lifted us, challenged us, and made us feel like main characters in our own lives." A few people clapped. I didn't. After dinner, I caught Ryan by the bar. "Hey," I said casually, "I noticed I wasn't in the slideshow. Was that intentional?" He looked sheepish. "Oh man, I think Haley put that together with her cousin. They just picked the highlights, you know. No offense." I nodded slowly. And the seating chart? Ryan hesitated. Haley's idea. She said, "You're not big on crowds. Wanted to give you space." It was such a bad answer. So rehearsed. And for the first time, I felt like maybe I wasn't just overlooked, I was deliberately excluded, pushed to the margins. The day of the wedding arrived and the venue was stunning. Picture-perfect weather, rolling hills in the background, violinist playing under a canopy of ivy. Guests sipped cocktails and took selfies in front of a flower arch. I helped coordinate the catering staff as they set up, wearing my nicest suit, trying to stay invisible. Just a background character, right? During the ceremony, I sat quietly in my seat by the exit, watching my parents beam with pride, my brother choke up as Haley walked down the aisle. It should have been a beautiful moment, but I felt numb, like I was watching strangers. The final straw came during the reception. After the couple's first dance, Haley and Ryan made another round of speeches, thanking guests, acknowledging their families. "We're so lucky to have such supportive parents, incredible friends," Haley said, voice sweet and confident. "And of course, to everyone who helped bring this vision to life, you know who you are." No eye contact, not even a glance in my direction. I was mid-sip of my drink when I finally stood up and walked over. I waited until there was a lull in the applause, then approached Haley at the head table. I kept my tone light. "Hey, can I ask you something?" She turned, a little surprised. "Sure." I smiled politely. "Just wondering why I wasn't in the slideshow, the speech, or even the family photo earlier?" Haley tilted her head, and then she did something I'll never forget. She smirked that smug, satisfied little curve of her lips. "Honestly," she said, flicking down my suit like it barely registered, "we didn't want background characters in our memories." I just stared at her. The room felt very quiet, though I'm sure it wasn't. Somewhere behind me, a fork clinked against a glass, but I was too busy replaying that sentence in my head. Background character. I nodded once. No anger, no scene, just a quiet, measured step back. Then I returned to my table, pulled out my phone, and opened the email chain with the caterers. The final payment $11,100 was scheduled to process at 5 p.m. I clicked cancel. The screen asked, "Are you sure?" I tapped yes. The timestamp was 4:56 p.m. And then I sat back, folded my hands, and waited. I watched the party unfold like a detached observer in a dream. Laughter echoed off the vineyard walls. The DJ transitioned from soft background jazz to the first real dance set of the night, and guests started to loosen up. Haley was twirling in her custom lace gown, Ryan grinning ear to ear, drinks flowing like liquid gold. No one noticed anything amiss at first. Why would they? The appetizers had made their rounds during cocktail hour. Everyone was buzzing from champagne and filtered sunlight. But then something shifted. At exactly 5:23 p.m., I saw the catering staff slow down. One server walked briskly toward the head coordinator with a furrowed brow. Another checked a clipboard, lips pressed into a line. They began whispering near the kitchen door, 2, then 3, then 5 of them. I could see the confusion ripple outward like a stone dropped into still water. The head planner, a woman named Karen who had coordinated over email with me a dozen times, made her way across the courtyard. Her heels clicked urgently against the flagstone as she approached the head table. She leaned down to Haley and Ryan, whispering discreetly but clearly with tension in her voice. Haley's smile faltered. Ryan blinked, then frowned. I watched him glance toward the catering tent, then toward me, not accusatory yet, just puzzled, still trying to process. I sipped my drink. Karen straightened up, her face now visibly flushed, and headed back toward the kitchen. Meanwhile, servers began quietly removing the plated silver chargers from the empty dinner tables. No main courses had been served yet. They were supposed to start the plated service at 5:30 sharp, beginning with the head table, but now the silverware was being collected, one table at a time, like a slow unraveling thread in the middle of a wedding tapestry. A few guests began to notice. Murmurs started, "Are we not eating? I thought dinner was next. Maybe they're running behind." The DJ, oblivious, played on. Haley stood abruptly, her pristine dress shifting like water as she walked with purpose toward the catering tent. She passed by me without a glance, which was fine. I wasn't looking for a confrontation, not yet. Ryan followed her, less composed. I could tell from the stiffness in his shoulders that the mask was cracking. 5 minutes later, they returned, Haley red-faced, Ryan stone silent. A waiter followed behind them with bottled water and nothing else. And that's when it happened. One of Ryan's groomsmen, probably a little too buzzed for tact, laughed and said, "Wait, was dinner cancelled?" He was joking, of course, but when Haley spun around and snapped, "We're handling it," the entire table went silent. The murmurs spread like wildfire. I caught snippets, guests asking each other if they should leave, if this was some kind of delay, or if they'd missed dinner altogether. Someone asked if they could order DoorDash. Another joked about whether the open bar would survive the stampede if food wasn't coming. I stayed seated, calmly, nursing my second glass of a drink. I wasn't hungry anymore. Haley and Ryan huddled again with Karen. She was trying to call someone. I assumed the catering owner, but I already knew how this played out. The contract was in my name. The deposit was paid months ago, but the remaining balance necessary to continue service had been stopped just before the food was plated. The kitchen had likely prepped it all, ready to go. But without the payment, they weren't delivering a thing. And since the venue didn't allow outside food service unless previously approved, Haley had no options. At around 6:05 p.m., Ryan made his way to my table. I could feel the shift in the air as he approached. His jaw was tight, eyes stormy but confused, like he still hadn't decided whether I was a villain or just a variable in a wedding spiraling out of control. "Hey," he said, low. I turned to him, not unkindly. "Hey, did you cancel the catering payment?" I took a long breath. "Yes." There was a pause. Just a heartbeat. "Why?" I looked up at him, not with anger, not even resentment, just clarity. "Because your wife told me I was a background character in your memories, and I realized I'd been paying to stay in a story I was never really a part of." He didn't speak. I added, "You asked me to help." "I did. I've helped with everything, quietly, without complaint. But if I'm just set dressing to be placed near the exit, if I don't even deserve a line in the credits, then no, I'm not funding your fairy tale anymore." Ryan ran a hand through his hair, glancing around. "You could have just told me." I raised my eyebrows. "Would you have heard me over the applause?" There was no comeback for that. Not a real one. He just stared at me like he was seeing me clearly for the first time. Then he turned and walked back to the head table, where Haley was visibly fuming. Guests were checking their watches. A few were gathering their things. The spell was breaking and no one could quite figure out why the magic had stopped, but I could. I stood up, buttoned my blazer, and slipped out quietly. No scene, no drama, just the background character fading to black. And as I walked toward the parking lot, I heard one of the servers explaining politely to a guest, "I'm so sorry, ma'am. Unfortunately, we've been asked to pause all service due to non-payment." The guest gasped. "What? But who?" And I smiled just a little as I stepped into the evening air. By the time I reached my car, twilight had started to settle in. The vineyard lights twinkled behind me like distant stars, beautiful, untouchable, and no longer my concern. I didn't drive away right away. I sat there for a minute in the driver's seat, engine off, hands loose on the wheel, listening to the muffled chaos drifting over from the courtyard. It was surreal, honestly. A wedding unraveling in real time, not because of some natural disaster or scandal, but because I'd quietly stopped holding everything together. And for once, I wasn't rushing in to fix it. My phone buzzed. First, it was a text from Ryan. "Elias, please just call me." I stared at it. Then, another from my mother. "Did something happen? Haley says you sabotaged the reception. Tell me that's not true." "No." "Are you okay?" "No." "What happened?" Just straight to accusation. Classic. And then a third. This one from Dad. "You need to apologize to your brother. Fix this before the guests leave. We're humiliated." I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I turned my phone on silent and slid it into the glove box. I wasn't ready for their side of the story yet. I was still sitting with mine. I ended up driving back to the inn I booked for the weekend. Not the fancy on-site lodge where most of the wedding party was staying, but a quiet little bed and breakfast about 10 minutes down the road. I picked it originally because it was cheap and tucked away, but now it felt like the smartest decision I'd made all month. When I got there, the innkeeper offered me a glass of port and asked how the wedding had gone. I gave a small laugh and said, "Eventful." I didn't go into details. Just sat in the cozy lounge, sipping my drink while the fireplace crackled, and let the weight of everything start to lift. It wasn't peace yet, but it was the start of it. The next morning, I woke to a full inbox 26 messages, most of them from family, some from guests, a few from numbers I didn't even recognize. I opened one from my cousin Jess. Okay, what happened? 1 minute we were drinking sangria, next minute, no food. Haley in full meltdown mode, and then someone said you walked out. Did you seriously pull the plug? Because low-key, that was kind of iconic. I smirked at that. Jess had always been one of the few family members who got it, who saw how often I played the role of the invisible support beam while Ryan basked in the spotlight. She wasn't mocking me. She was impressed, maybe even proud. But not everyone felt that way. By 11 a.m., I'd gotten voicemails from my aunt, my mom again, Ryan twice, and Haley's mother. That one was particularly venomous. Elias, I don't know what kind of personal grudge you're holding on to, but you ruined the most important. Hello everyone. I am writing this to figure out what to do or who to believe in this situation. Let me start out by saying that I am white and my lovely fiancée is a black woman. We have an amazing relationship and I don't want any other woman in my life. She is also the only black woman I have ever dated. My parents have always been supportive of me and I have an incredibly strong family relationship with them and my siblings, or at least I thought. When I was growing up in the Midwest, there weren't really black people around and the topic of racism never came up really. But I never suspected that my lovely outgoing and polite parents would be racist, because they even donated money to an orphanage in Africa for like 20 years now through their church. My parents met my fiancé a year ago, but did not take it too seriously because I had a lot of girlfriends in the past and they probably just thought it was another girlfriend. Well, last weekend I announced to them that my girlfriend was now my fiancé on a family Zoom meeting. My parents looked a little surprised, because I did not discuss it with them before, but were ultimately congratulating me. We wanted to have a dinner with them in person to sort of let them get to know their future daughter-in-law, and everything blew up. My mom forgot something for the dinner and my dad and I went to the store to get it. My fiancé texted me about 10 minutes and asking me to come back right away because she needed me and my dad, and I turned around. When I got back she was sitting in my car, I still had the keys, and she was crying, asking me to take her to our house. Of course I drove her home and told my parents I was sorry, and my fiancé told me what my mom had said to her. Essentially, my fiancé told me that my mom said she was not supportive of us because she didn't want black grandchildren. A number of other things that she was surprised my fiancé married up, even though I think my fiancé is better looking than me, but I am a bit more successful financially. Well, I confronted my mom and asked what she said, and my mom said that she said nothing even close to that, and that the only thing she said was that she was curious what country my wife was ethnically from and that my fiancé mistook it. Well, I asked my fiancé more probing questions, but she is adamant that my mom explicitly said these things. I've never known either of them to be liars, but the two people I trust most in this world are giving me completely conflicting stories. I want to side with my wife, but what if she is having some mental episode or something? Is it a possibility that no one is lying here? I need some fucking help, tired face.